Hi guys, Pete Mazaris, the Home Inspector Mentor, here to talk to you about can I sue my home inspector? All right, so this video is for not only consumers, buyers, and home inspectors, but for attorneys as well. Anybody who thinks that they can sue their home inspector because they think their home inspector missed something and they got the idea most likely from an ignorant tradesperson who doesn't know the terms and conditions that home inspector performed the inspection for you. Okay, so that's usually where it starts. Okay, a waterproofer, a roofer, a HVAC person, a uh, you know whoever tradesperson thinks that when they look at a issue that you're having, that the home inspector should have found it, and they have no idea if that's true or not. Of course, there are situations where it's pretty obvious, perhaps, that they should have, and that's why home inspectors should be insured to protect them against cases where it's pretty clear cut. For instance, if there's evidence that a furnace component is missing, that is part of the standard for the inspector to check, and it's obvious that it's missing or not present or broken, and that's pretty clear cut. But a lot of things aren't clear cut, and you have to refer back to the home inspection agreement that you signed for your inspection. And so most inspection agreements are going to refer to a standard of practice, either the state standard, the ASHI standard, or the INTERNACHI standard, the two trade groups in the industry. And so those standards are going to have language that is really limiting for the scope of the inspection. Okay, they're going to say that the inspector is performing a technically exhaustive, non-invasive visual inspection of the home's permanently installed systems and components, and is only going to be responsible for accessible items that are readily observed and available. Okay, and then beyond that, there's many more inspection things that are not included in, I'm sorry, not inspection things, but things in the house that are not part of that inspection. And so, as a perhaps buyer that thinks that they have a issue that was the fault of the inspector, and they don't want to take, responsibility for making the decision to buy the house, okay, and say that they relied on a home inspector's opinion, which to me is not responsible at all. But if you want to do that, that's how our litigation system allows us to operate in America. And you go and consult an attorney, and that attorney is going to take a look at that inspection agreement that you signed and the state standard or the industry standard that the inspection was performed against, and compare it to the inspection report that was delivered to you, and see if your case has merit. And so, for several reasons, it is pretty difficult to sue the home inspector and get any kind of judgment. Of course, you can get a judgment. It happens. Okay, I know inspectors that I think probably had judgments of maybe $5,000 or $6,000 against them. I think the maximum I've ever had was I had to pay $2,500 to someone who was suing us for $25,000, and so it's kind of small change. And the reason for that is that these inspection agreements that us home inspectors have, are designed to protect us, the home inspector, in case of a error or omission. And that's why we all should have insurance as well, just in case. And our error and omissions insurance companies have, attorneys on staff that will, defend us and, argue why it wasn't the home inspector's fault for whatever problem you are experiencing as the new homeowner. And so, with that said, as a home inspector, I'm not going to do any home inspections unless you, my buyer, sign this inspection agreement that is a limited liability agreement and has many, many limitations. And then I'm going to perform that inspection to that inspection agreement scope, which references whatever standard that we're following. And so when we do that, it is very difficult to come back to us and perhaps get a satisfactory judgment against us if we didn't observe and report something that you think that we should have, or maybe a tradesperson thought that we should have. Of course, tradespeople are only there after the fact and have no idea what, terms and conditions that the inspection was performed under. And so, listening to, a tradesperson say that you should, go after your home inspector is really, poor advice. And typically, it is difficult to do that. It is difficult to sue a home inspector. It is possible, but in most cases, if that home inspector did their job and reported to the standard, then they will have evidence of that inspection agreement, that standard, and the report that they produced for you that states, not states, but shows whether or not that they were culpable. And, to pierce that, that veil of that inspection agreement and the standard, is pretty difficult. And I'm not saying it can't be done, and it has been done, but, in 20 years, I've never seen or heard of a large judgment against a home inspector for, errors and omissions, or, not following the standard of care, or negligence. And so it is difficult. And it is difficult because, we as home inspectors are going to protect ourselves, because we're only there doing a home inspection during a snapshot of time, a couple hours, okay, under certain weather conditions. And so if it's dry out when we're doing the home inspection, how are we going to determine that maybe there's a roof leak unless there's obvious evidence, that there's, leak marks and that it was leaking. And so I will publish a couple more videos that go into much more detail with complaints and perhaps some lawsuits that we've had, so that you can see what the situation was, how I responded, and the judgment that we got, or if I decided that, yeah, we missed that. Okay, we need to man up and be responsible to our clients and pay for the issue, which I've done a couple times. And so I'll go into more detail. But anyway, so I hope I answered the question. If you can sue your home inspector, yes, you can sue your mom if you want to. But it comes down to, is it really worth it? Is it worth hiring an attorney to do that? And what kind of judgment do you think you can get? I think there's attorneys out there that feel, or people who feel like if you just send a demand letter to the insurance carrier, that they're going to pay up because they don't want to go litigate. That's not the case these days, right? Our insurance carrier is very aggressive in defending us against meritless claims, and they make them go away. And those that don't go away, they go to small claims court, which I had, and I'm going to go into a nice example for everybody, of a real life example of what happened. We won that judgment. And so as a home inspector, we're very cognizant and aware of the serious nature of the job that we do, and no home inspector sets out to do a bad job, okay? Nobody wants to do a bad job. We didn't go into this business to defraud customers, okay? We went into this business because we liked it. We thought we would be good at it. We could make some money doing it, but we're not supermen and superwomen, and we do make mistakes, and that's why we have insurance. That's why we have standards of practice, and that's why we have inspection agreements that are written in our favor. And that at the end of the day is what we're about. And so, word of advice for anybody who wants to sue a home inspector: at least read through that inspection agreement, that standard, and that inspection report to see if you really have a case. And if you do have a case, you reach out to that home inspector. Many times that inspector is going to own up to it if it's obvious. And if they don't, then perhaps you do have a case. You need to seek, legal advice. So, hope this is helpful to everybody. Thanks.